would you mind kind of taking us back to that brief period right after his passing? What did you initially understand about what happened? And when did you kind of find out about akathisia after that?
For the first month after Stewart died, the whole community, his law firm, everyone who knew him were in a state of shock. I always tell people if 1,000 people would end their life by Stewart, would be 1,001. So the first month was a blur. Nobody knew anything. But unbeknownst to me, one of my friends was doing her research and talked to a law firm, went through the intake process, and this wonderful gentleman said, Akathisia Stewart Dolin. So it's about a month and a day after I Stuart's death. I'm walking my dog, and my girlfriend calls and says, Akathisia. And I'm like, what? And I remember writing it down. I couldn't spell it. I didn't know anything about it. But that night, in fact, I looked up the article. I looked up GSK suppressed data on Paxil-induced akathisia. And then it was one of those moments where, I was so struck by this. And then I looked up what was on the website early on about akathisia and all the precursors to akathisia. His, restlessness, his pacing started to make sense. So I didn't learn about akathisia until about a little over a month after he died.
So, Jenna, you had known Stewart really since you were a child. How did finding out about akathisia impact you?
Yeah, well, similar to what Wendy said, it was just kind of an explanation that explained what happened to Stu. Um, as everyone else, I struggled with understanding, how this could have happened. Stu was always such an optimistic and calm person, a calm presence. So learning that a medication could, you know, cause such a torment and agitation was both very eye opening and obviously heartbreaking, but helped us understand what happened.
And then this is a question for both of you. And I guess, Wendy, you can answer this first, then I'll go to Jenna. But what was most shocking or unexpected as you began researching medication-induced harm?
What was the most shocking was that it was hidden, and was most shocking that it wasn't well known. I'm a therapist. I went back to social work later in life, and being an older student, I read all the, supplemental reading and all the extras. I had never heard about akathisia. And then to hear what happened to people with akathisia, it was just heartbreaking. It was one of those moments where how do you just sit with that information and not do anything? It was just you just can't hide drug trials. You can't hide side effects that ultimately leads to people's deaths.
Yeah, I agree. That healthcare professionals and consumers were both very unaware. People that were prescribing the medications thought they knew maybe about the medications, but were not informed appropriately. So misunderstanding the symptoms, misunderstanding how to really provide informed consent. And then
Mhm.
also, I was surprised after we started, hearing from people how many families were affected by this without having a word to put to the name, not being able to advocate for themselves because they didn't know what they were really experiencing, and neither did their healthcare provider.